We were together the night of the disastrous debate. And here we are, 1 month later, and he's gone. And I don't think anybody on this panel is surprised. But what a seismic moment in American politics, Rich.
Yeah, huge. You called it. I was skeptical that he would get out, at least initially. I just thought there's no mechanism to get him out. He's really motivated to stay in. He's wanted this his whole adult life. A lot of things are very important to him. You know, the stature of it, the prestige, what it does for his family, all that. But it became unsustainable. And it just turns out Nancy Pelosi, this isn't the first time we've learned this, has more cojones than all the rest of them. It looked like Biden was just going to bulldoze them 2 weeks ago before that Morning Joe appearance where she said, you haven't decided, even though he had decided. And she basically said, you haven't decided until I've decided you've decided. And that kept the door open, kept the pressure going, and it ultimately became unsustainable. But the most shocking such move since LBJ pulls out without much notice after underperforming very early on in the Democratic primaries, biggest political story since the rise of Donald Trump in 2016.
The other story, which is infuriating, and even more so at the moment, Emily, is the massive cover-up that was engaged in by the White House and the media. And right now, as predicted, they're falling in to praise Joe Biden. Oh, he's such a hero. He's such a patriot. All of the ones who enabled this fraud to begin with.
And, that's something Kamala Harris is also going to have to answer for because Kamala Harris clearly, as the vice president, was complicit in not being honest with the American people about the day-to-day lapses in the president's cognitive abilities. I mean, there's just no question about it. And, the Veep caricature, that Selena Meyer, Julia Louis-Dreyfus caricature of the vice president being out of the loop on important issues, et cetera, isn't entirely true. The vice president is interacting with the president, even if they're just at a bill signing. She was seeing this. She's going to have to answer for it over and over again. But I will say, to see everyone fall in line so quickly is fascinating. It's not surprising, but it's fascinating because if Kamala Harris is the nominee, if a bunch of people consolidate behind her, donors, actors, media figures consolidate behind Kamala Harris, the snowball starts rolling down the hill. She is going to have that same machine that was so powerful that they covered up Joe Biden's cognitive issues for years. And we're so lucky that debate happened when it did, because it was a crack in that facade. That facade stood because these people are lying, and they're lying with very powerful platforms. That's now going to be behind Kamala Harris, who is objectively a bad candidate. Her unfavorability rating is up there with Donald Trump's. Her favorability is actually lower than Donald Trump's, according to Real Clear Politics. But that machine is really, really powerful, and it is desperate to keep Donald Trump out of office.
This is going to be a stomach-turning couple of months, Rich, as all of these, media enablers pretend they're just honest brokers who are really shocked by what they saw in President Biden that debate night. And now he's just done the right thing as he's recognized his deterioration and is going to save democracy. He'll get his big library. He may be sainted, right? And it will be completely memory hold what he did, his staff did, his vice president did, and they did.
Totally. And it wasn't because they all suddenly became conscience stricken and said, we can't have this man continue to serve for another 4 years. It's preposterous and wrong. They got caught. They got caught by the debate. And I keep going back to that fundraiser in Hollywood, George Clooney, co-host, raised whatever, it's $30 million. And we saw Joe Biden state. You didn't even have to listen to anything he said. Just that 7-second freeze up on stage where Barack Obama has to lead him off by his hand. That's normal. That's not normal. That doesn't happen with anyone who's in good shape. And we all saw it with our own eyes. But the AP did a fact check saying we were wrong and we were cheap faking it to make a big deal of this video. And they're just, and then we learn George Clooney was freaked out and disturbed by Biden's state. And according to John Favreau, on CNN, after Clooney's op-ed came out, he and his wife and everyone they talked to after the fundraiser was freaked out and disturbed. Did they say one peep to indicate that there was some level of concern? No. So their lie didn't really work with the public because about 2/3, 3/4 of people didn't think he was fit to serve another 3/4, but they deluded themselves and got themselves into this fix where they have to do this quick switch out of the president of the United States, which is, she'll be better than him, I guess, just because she doesn't have the age thing. But this is not a great process. It's going to smell rotten to a lot of people, but they did it to themselves because they believed, as Emily was saying, they believe in the power of their own lies. And thank God, at least there's some limit to what they can get away with.
Now we're getting reaction pouring in. Bill and Hillary Clinton, per the New York Times, endorsed Kamala Harris, writing in a statement that they would do, quote, whatever we can to support her. President Obama not going that far. Praising Biden, his former VP, in a statement, but does not endorse Harris, appears to endorse, quote, a process for picking someone. Quote, I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. But here's the question, Rich, one more for you. Is that window dressing, as Halpern was suggesting, because realistically they can't get another nominee in, so they just have to make it look to the voters they assume are dumb, that they're doing the process, but the fix is in for Kamala? Yeah,
probably. I bet, because Barack Obama is a pretty good political analyst, he wants someone else. Nancy Pelosi wants someone else. But if you don't know what the process is going to be, and the process is going to, whatever it is going to be 3 weeks long, and you have the vice president who's the natural person to fill in for the president when he's debilitated in this way, and he just got endorsed by the president, by the former president. If you're Josh Shapiro or Gretchen Whitmer, are you going to get in? And potentially hurt yourself in your own state? I think that would be the best ticket, by the way, if you could wave a wand and you're a Democrat. Do 2 blue state governors, one of whom at least has a relatively moderate image, and just go for broke and try to hold on to those 3 states and win by 2 electoral votes. Instead, I think it's likely that they're stuck with Kamala, and maybe probably likelier than not that there's not a challenger.
Emily, what we've seen so far in these polls is that Trump is crushing Biden when it comes to the male vote, and that Biden's female advantage was limited down to, the latest poll showed, I think, 3 points. Now, it's possible some women will come to the ticket once this infirm man is off of it, but my own gut instincts tell me there is no way enough will come, because Kamala Harris is an inherently unlikable person, to diminish, to dwarf, to blunt the advantage Trump has with men, which I think is only about to grow, again, because of Kamala. So what do you make of my male-female analysis?
I could not agree with that more. I think that's a really important point. It reminds me actually of what James Carville said when he was talking about why working men, for example, look at the Democratic Party and it's kind of coded as feminine. This is about to go into hyperdrive, and he had some specific things that are kind of funny about why that is, like down to, making people wear prophylactics. But in all seriousness, that's about to go into hyperdrive because we are now in the post-2020 DEI backlash. Companies have been reacting to it. And you can bet that Kamala Harris is going to be, whether the media does it or her campaign does it, I would guess both. This is a candidacy that would be the first female presidency ever, the first Black female president ever. It is going to have that air of history crammed down people's throats. And with a lot of voters, especially male voters, that are already in the Trump camp by huge margins, it's going to be irritating and it's going to backfire. There may be some people that it works with. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton. I think, and that was before 2020 and before things sort of came to that fever pitch, which turned so many people off that now even companies are reacting to the market in ways that they're trying to hide their DEI initiatives. So, I think that's a very, very real part of the dynamic. If it's a Trump versus Harris campaign, the gender divide is going to be even starker than it already was.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.